Welcome to the Thriving Misfits, the podcast where we celebrate resilience, embrace diversity, and challenge norms. I'm your host, Fiona Young, and today we have a truly inspiring duo with us. Greg Solomon joins us from Hong Kong, where he's built a career as an actuary and consultant in the realms of insurtech and healthtech. Originally, he's from South Africa. Greg's journey has been really diverse, as is his heritage. So he's Scottish, Lithuanian, and has German roots. From a disciplined start in primary school to a rebellious adventure in high school, Greg found his really love in martial arts and representing South Africa on the national Koreans karate team before committing to a career that's taken him across continents, where he's also learning Mandarin Chinese along the way. So joining Greg today is his beautiful daughter, Natalie, a bright spark born in Hong Kong, and she's nearly 8 years old. Natalie loves languages and literature. She devoured the Harry Potter series before turning 6 and has since championed girl power through her favorite reads. And in particular, a very unique project with her dad, reimagining Kahlil Gibran's classic bestseller, The Prophet, from a female perspective, which is now a published book. So beyond books, Natalie enjoys playing the cello, excels in competitive singing, and does jujitsu, embodying a spirit of curiosity and creativity that mirrors her family's dynamics. So together, Greg and Natalie exemplify the essence of the Thriving Misfits, where embracing diversity, creativity, and family value is not just a way of life, but a source of strength and inspiration. So join us as we delve into their remarkable journey. Good morning, Greg and Natalie. How are you doing today?
Morning, Fiona. We're doing well.
Great. Now, the listeners, the viewers would like to know you a little bit better. So let's kick it off with some rapid fire round questions. So the first question goes to Greg. You have this hashtag your life system, which sounds like the ultimate life hack. Can you hashtag the most chaotic moment of your journey from being an obedient student to a rebellious high schooler to now having an international actuary career?
I think I would use the hashtag reset. So what had happened, when I was in primary school, I was incredibly shy, very nerdy, not sporty, and a very small group of friends, not particularly social. And I was like that the whole of primary school. But when I moved to high school, I went to a different area, and so didn't know many people at the school. Almost no one knew me. And but what had happened in that first day, or the first week, we had to do a race so that they could judge how fast people were to decide who's going to play which sports and who's going to do athletics. And the bully of the school picked on me because he knew he didn't know me, and he was popular with all the kids, and he picked on a little bit, and he's like, well, are you fast at running? And I didn't know. I wasn't a sporty person, so I said, I don't know. He's like, you don't know. And he started mocking me in front of everyone. But then we had the race from one end of the rugby field to the other, and I actually beat him. He was normally the one who was coming in at number one, and I beat him. Suddenly you can imagine the embarrassment that he felt, because he was mocking me, and suddenly this new boy at the school had beaten him. So he's like, oh, what's your name? Oh, you tricked me. And suddenly he was acting like my friend. And of course, all the people around him who like him, suddenly they were my friend. And so I went from being a nobody with like negligible social life to suddenly the tough guy was friends with me, and everyone else was being nice to me. And I grew a social life. So it was literally a matter of an hour that completely changed my life. So, how did I go through those phases of life? I would say hashtag reset.
Wow, that's amazing. And I can resonate with that. I've been bullied in school as well. As a third culture kid growing up in Germany, I was the only Asian kid in the 80s. So I can definitely resonate with that. And it's quite painful, but I love how you have turned that around and you're able to thrive. So Natalie, now here's a question for you. So you have reimagined the amazing book, The Prophet, with your dad through a female protagonist's perspective. So what was the most fun debate that you had with your dad about how a wise woman would deliver her teachings?
Well, well, there's this chapter in the Prophet, um, called Crime and Punishment, and and it says about sometimes the victim is partly to blame in the book, and then it's, like it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you're carrying this expensive, fancy camera down the dark part of town that people normally go missing there. Like, and then you get robbed. Like, what do you expect was going to happen? Like, why would you even carrying it at dawn anyway? So it's kind of weird. So yeah, sometimes the victim is partly to blame, but my dad explained how that is different for women. Like, this is an example, just an example. So
Hmm.
let's say I was walking down the shops and I'm really happy, so I'm smiling. And then suddenly an old man walks up to me and tries to kiss me, and I'm like, whoa, 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 what you doing? And he said, well, you smiled at me, so that means I can kiss you. But it doesn't. Obviously, it doesn't. So I realized that was actually a problem for women. So we decided to delete that part.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, definitely agree with you. You have to be assertive, right? You have to say no and know your boundaries and communicate that. Thank you so much, Natalie, for sharing that. Now, back to Greg. You mentioned and we've talked about your rebellious streak in high school, and now you're an advocate for diversity and inclusion in your professional, but also in your personal life. So, how did your upbringing with influences from different cultures shape your understanding of gender equity and feminism?
Um, so I've always had a strong female influence in my life, and obviously we grow up generally with moms who play a very important role. But I also grew up with three sisters, and so I was very much aware of the issues. You know, they would I don't know they would start working as teenagers, and I would hear some of the stuff that would happen, and I became aware at a pretty young age of how women were treated, and how people behaved towards them. So I became aware of that. Now, of course, in South Africa, I grew up under the old apartheid regime, I guess a very unfair society between black and white people. And but as we started democratizing and Mandela came out of jail and became our first president, there was a lot of discussion and debate about what is fair and how do we respect Western culture and African culture and so on. So there was just a huge amount of exposure to different cultures that, because we lived in different areas, we went to different schools, we didn't understand the respective cultures. So we started to understand the cultures, we started to focus on what is appropriate and what is fair. So that became a big debate for me as well. And now I have two daughters, Natalie, and Natalie has an older sister, Nikki. And again, I care about the world that they are growing up in. I want them to be confident in their position as girls and later women in society, that they can do whatever they want. But I also want society to have adapted enough that society and the workplace and sport environment and everything is more fair to girls, to women. And so that's partly, I guess, been driving my push, trying to make it a better world. And so when Natalie and I published this book together, it was a bit of it started off as a father-daughter project helping a young girl understand life, but also understand the challenges she is likely to face. And and now we're here.
Also, how computer works.
Yeah, exactly. We did plenty of that.
Right. So now, Natalie, you and your dad, you rewrote that famous book through the eyes of a woman. What's the coolest thing you learned about how girls and boys can be heroes in their own ways?
Well, I know you don't have superpowers like Spider Man or Wonder Woman, but you can still be superheroes heroes in your own way. And sometimes it's just as simple as looking from the other person's point of view, the other person's perspective. Like, for example, my dad's Cantonese isn't great.
Hey.
It's true. Anyway, so sometimes I help translate for him, like if we're in a taxi or something. And I can see from the look in his eyes at that moment, I'm his hero. So,
Oh.
but maybe you're not that good at um, seeing what other people need, but it can also be super simple. Like if there's a bunch of kids playing games that only boys like to play, but girls don't like to play, you can stand up and say, "Hey, everybody, let's play a game that everybody wants to play." It can be so simple.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Yes. And like you said, Natalie, it can be so simple and people just forget that, right? Great. Now, moving into the workplace scenario. So, Greg, you mentioned you're a father of two daughters. How do you navigate teaching them about equity and also the respect for women and basically promoting these values in their professional life in future?
I mean, originally it started off just reminding them from a very young age that girls can do anything, that they can be anything. Because, you know, as kids, they talk about, oh, when I grow up, I want to be. And it's so easy. I mean, you know, even when I'm helping Natalie with her homework, there's this, you know, some of the exercises they do is like, you know, mummy is very pretty and she has dinner waiting when she gets home from work, and daddy is hard working. And so already we see all of these images coming through, and so speaking to the girls when they're young that they can do anything and be anything. But I think sometimes you have to create a bit of that fighting spirit. So I might be out with the girls in a shopping center and we'd see a pilot, a man, and I'd say, like, you see that guy, he's a pilot, but you can't be a pilot because you're only a girl. And they were like,
Mm.
"What? Dad? No, I can be a pilot if I want." And then they would fight back. And so that is starting to create that indignance towards an attitude like, "Don't talk to me like that. I can do anything I want." And so I want them to feel confident as girls and women. And again, I just want to find our way of helping others realize that they can do that. So it is a matter of making sure that they are watching movies or reading books as well that have a key female roles out of that. So I think starting young, whether it's a boy or a girl, young children need to be reminded that there isn't. You know, our bodies may be different and our hormones may be different, but other than that, our opportunities and how we treat people, we should still be fair. We should still be reasonable.
Absolutely. And, you know, I have a 1.5-year-old son, and we
Mm.
go to music class, we sing nursery rhymes. And I always found this paragraph on the wheels on the bus go round and round. And then it says, the moms on the bus go chatter, chatter, chatter.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, why? So it just projects the persona of a mom or as a woman as someone who's always gossiping and chatting, but there's so much more to a woman, right? And it starts already with nursery rhymes. So can we have a little bit more of contemporary nursery rhymes that are more inclusive and
Yes, exactly
reflecting,
right. Yeah.
right, and reflecting what we want to project to our daughters, but also, like you said, our sons, because I would love to, you know, be a role model for him as well, to showcase that no matter your gender, no matter your diversity aspects, you are able to thrive. And it's really about making sure that you understand your uniqueness and you feel proud of them, right? You really embrace the different aspects that you have and not see yourself necessarily as a misfit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and as
Now,
Natalie
you,
was saying earlier on about being someone's hero, about seeing the world from another person's perspective, you know, your son grows up, he understands a little bit more about the dynamics that does exist, and it's to his benefit as well. People see that he takes on this alternative perspective, he understands how other people are, and then people respect him for that as well. And there's a lot more mutual recognition taking place. The society is better off when people try.
absolutely. And I think it's not only where us women, we need to advocate for that, but we need that strong support from our male allies. And you, Greg, you are very active supporter in that space. And I can always, whenever I observe my husband, how he reacts, how he behaves, we've been together for 20 years already. He has always been unconsciously a very strong male ally. For him, it didn't matter whether I earned more. It didn't matter whether we would move jobs because of me. He didn't care that I immediately started work after having my son because it just worked out that way. So unconsciously, he is the biggest male ally in my life. Now, how can male allies, from your point of view, be more of an active support and also advocate for gender equity in the workplace?
Yep. I mean, I think regardless of whether people take on this label of being an ally or not, a guy can make a difference and stop. Like everything, be the change you're looking for in the world. Guys should start off exposing themselves to situations. Female authors, stories with female protagonists, female sports heroes, female politicians. The more we expose ourselves, I've read some books on feminism, and it's eye opening. As a guy, we don't get treated like that, so it's useful for us. So I think step one is to expose ourselves to women in that sense, to influential women in our lives, and I think that's a great starting point. Again, there is a difference between being supportive of women and being anti-women in their attitude. So there's a difference between not making jokes. I mean, of course, a great starting point is you don't make objectifying jokes about women in the office. You don't always send the women to get the coffee. There's little things like that. But then you take a more active role, and it's a matter of if someone else makes an inappropriate joke, and he's like, "Oh, hang on a second, I'm uncomfortable with their joke." It shouldn't always have to be the women who have to step out. The guys can step forward and go like, "No, hang on a second, this is not a cool thing to say." And then I think another important thing about being a male ally, it's not about mansplaining. It's not about here. Let me explain to you how you should be more effective in the workplace. The reality is men and women are different, and we have different styles. And sometimes being an ally is simply saying, well, when you do something, you did it this way, I would have done that way, let's compare notes. And when I do something, the woman might say to me like, oh, you did this way, I would have done that way. So it is a two-way relationship, not about explaining or teaching to the other person, but about collaborating. So I think that's how it is, and how we treat women at home, how we treat women on the sports field, how we treat women in the workplace, and that applies to gender, age, race, disability status, sexual preference, all of those things. Deep down inside, we are the same person. So we really need to do it throughout our lives.
Great. Now, back to you, Natalie. You've read and you've written stories with strong girls and women. If you could give advice to a boy, maybe to my son, Reuven, who wants to help create a more fair school environment, what would you say to that boy?
Well, I'd encourage him and say that he's doing a good thing. And I'd say to remind people around him about stuff like, and I'd also say that I'd also recommend our book, The Prophet, because because it has some wonderful wisdom in the book, and at the beginning it actually explains why we're doing this and how we make a more diverse society. So yeah.
Is there any key advice that you would tell my little son?
I just say to not be just be more diverse and equitable and stuff.
Right. Equity is such an important word, and I want to make sure that people focus on equity rather than just equality, right? Because equity is something that where we are providing every individual the necessary resources so that they can thrive and they can succeed, because all of us are unique individuals. So you can't give every one of us the same resources or support. So I think equity, as what Natalie already mentioned, is something that we really need to strive towards too.
Yep,
Now,
exactly.
Greg,
And on the whole
yes,
DEI front, that E, I agree with you. It is about equitability and not about equality, because we can't be equal. Even if we think in the context of a misfit, they've had challenges, maybe not being accepted or not feeling accepted. So their background, their upbringing has already been different. And so just to treat two people the same way when so much has happened differently in the background, I agree with you. Equality is not the solution. It's equitability. It's what is fair.
that's right. Now, you, Greg, and I, we have a very unconventional career path, I would say. You have navigated diverse fields from martial arts to actuarial consultancy. What advice would you give to a misfit who feels that they don't fit into a traditional career path?
I think we shouldn't feel boxed in. Again, that hashtag reset, right? It is okay to reinvent ourselves. And sometimes we have to go through some difficult times about reminding ourselves why the corporate environment isn't the right place to be working in. Um, but again, a lot of the people that I've spoken to, I guess, misfits, according to your labeling, a lot of misfits just, well, this is who I am, and therefore I'm entitled to do this. So I'm going to start my own business, and everything's going to be okay. And like anything, we have to invest in ourselves. We have to invest in our lives. And so a misfit who's wanting to take their own direction, it's going to take work, because there is, it's hard enough starting a business or developing a successful career, but to do it, if you're going to ride on the back of your misfit nature, your uniqueness, it does take extra work. So I think it's really important that people pursue their dreams, but they are realistic and they work towards achieving what they want to do. It's not just going to come given to them, and that's true with misfits as well as regular people. We have to work hard, and we have to work towards something. So people should go for it. They should be realistic about what is possible and what effort's going to take, but they should absolutely go for it.
I agree with you that there needs to be hard work being put in. And, as a woman in a corporate career, I've been given opportunities, but I don't want to see it as such that I've been given opportunities just because I'm a woman or because I am ethnically Asian or because I was young, right? Because I should be given those opportunities because I've done a great job, because of my performance, because of the results that I deliver. So yes, we have to put in the hard work. It just doesn't come overnight and riding on our misfitness. So
Yep.
now, Natalie, you're very passionate about stories with strong female characters, and you love your creative pursuits with the cello and also writing. What kind of advice would you give to other young girls who feel like a misfit in order for them to really thrive?
I just say that being different isn't bad. It being different isn't bad. It's just a bit that you're a bit different. But but if you're a misfit, you might want to do things different to what other people do. And I think there are two parts to life. One of them are about um, the first part is what we must do. Misfits or not misfits, we still have to do it. Like eating vegetables, doing work, doing homework, and we have to do it no matter what. But on the other hand, there are things that it's our choice to do it, our choice, our things in our ways. So we could, yeah, so we could actually choose it. And being misfit isn't bad. It's not, and being different isn't bad. It just means you're special, unique, and you can be brilliant in your own way.
Absolutely. I love that message. Thank you so much, Natalie. Well, that concludes another inspiring episode of the Thriving Misfits. We've had the pleasure of hearing from Greg and his journey from being a rebellious high schooler to a global actuarial consultant and now author reflects the power of embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also following one's passion. Alongside Greg, we had Natalie, who has shown us that age is no barrier to creativity and advocacy. Her love for literature, music, and martial arts, coupled with her passion for championing girl power, exemplifies resilience and determination. Remember that their book, The Prophet, Reimagined Through a Woman's Voice, is available on Amazon and in Hong Kong at Bookazine stores. So once you've read it, make sure to share a copy with someone else who would benefit from being inspired by a woman. So thank you, Greg and Natalie, for sharing your stories and insights with us today. Your perspectives on diversity, equity, and inclusion and the power of embracing uniqueness are truly uplifting. To our listeners, remember that being a misfit isn't about fitting in. It's about standing out, but in the right way, and also thriving in your own way. So thank you for tuning in to the Thriving Misfits. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, and remember to leave a review. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories and insightful conversations. Until the next time, keep thriving, Misfits.